obviously a Power Platform Finance community event, and we're looking today at building a commentary feedback solution within Power BI, PowerApps and Power Automate. And we've got Sam who's going to present today. And it's a really interesting topic and one that's definitely growing within the field. We're seeing more and more opportunities in this area. So the Power Platform Finance user group, so the Power Platform is across Power BI, PowerApps and Power Automate. So we're a set of professionals that work in the finance space. So we really kind of leverage this space. So you've got on the call today, you've got myself. So I'm Chris Barber. I'm a senior consultant at Altius. You've also got Rishi. I don't know, Rishi, if you want to introduce yourself briefly.
Yep, also consultant at Altius, work with Chris, work mainly in the Power BI space. Looking at governance and self-serve business analytics and things like that. So yeah, and MVP. So do stuff in the community. So I run another community site as well called Learn Data Insights along with Naveen, which is focused on helping people at the moment prepare for the GA100 exam, the Power BI exam. So it's got lots of quizzes on there. So if anyone's interested in taking that exam, then yeah, please go onto there and register. So learndatainsights.com. I'll put it in the chat as well.
Great. Naveen as well. I don't know if you want to say hello as well briefly.
Hi guys, thanks for being here. My name is Naveen, and I help out Rishi and Chris, of course, with Power Platform Finance. Together with Rishi, set up, as Rishi just mentioned, Learn Data Insights, and I hope this is going to be a very interesting session. Thanks.
Thank you. So just to let you know what's new on the platform, so Jessie, who does her own YouTube channel, in fact, she's releasing new content every week at the moment, did a talk for the Power Platform Finance community 2 weeks ago where she covered Power Apps, Power BI and Power Automate, and you can see there the kind of interfaces that she created through that process. So if you're interested in that, you can watch the video back on the Power Platform Finance site. Next up, we're really excited to say, before I go to that, we do have a feedback form. I'll pop the feedback in the comments. So if you want to leave any feedback, we'd really appreciate it for the session. It's really useful for us in terms of creating new events. So coming up next week, we have visual cash flow statements in Power BI. We're really glad to have Belinda Allen join us. So Belinda's one of the Microsoft MVPs like Rishi. She's a really important speaker who's co-authored a couple of different books on this topic as well, on different topics within finance and Power BI and Power Platform. So I would strongly advise you to log in 2 weeks' time as well if you can.
Just put the link to register for that in the chat as well, so you can go straight to the page there.
Great stuff. And today we have Sam, who's going to be taking us through building a commentary feedback solution using the Power Platform. So Sam's a senior consultant at Altius, and we've been through this presentation a few times. It's really interesting to see the full presentation. So I really hope you find it useful. And without further ado, I will hand over.
Cheers, Chris. Let me share my screen. Let me know when you can see my screen, guys.
Yes, I can see it's come through.
Yeah, I can see it.
Cool, let's kick off. All right, quick intro to myself. My name's Samuel Woldu. I'm one of the senior Power Platform consultants at Altius. So I'm working daily with PowerApps, Power BI and Power Automate to build solutions. My LinkedIn is Samuel Woldu, and my Twitter is @SamWoldu on Twitter. If you ever want to reach out to me, or if you've got any questions regarding it, feel free to reach out to me and connect. So what's the agenda for today? So today we're going to review the Power BI commentary feature, so the native feature that they have within Power BI service that allows you to have comments in there. We're also going to build a commentary Power App from scratch. We've got an hour, so it should be just enough time to do it. And then right at the end, we're going to go through challenges and considerations that you have to take into account when you're building a solution, when you're building a commentary solution. So to start off with, let's go ahead and look at the Power BI commentary features that we have in Power BI service at the moment. So if we look at this, here we have a report. We're in Power BI service. This is where the end users consume the reports. We have an income statement, and across the left, to open this up, you select the comments that you have here in the top row. So if we select comments here, we can then see comments that have been made. It's only me within this tenant, so it's just my comments here. So this is a great feature that allows you to do quite a bit. But if we dive deeper into this, if we click on this comment that said where's 2008 actuals, you can see here in 2007, if I click on this, it then goes into the filter context of this visual. So then it's then remembered that that visual, it takes into account that that visual was in 2008, which is great. If I go back into 2007, it goes into 2007, which is handy. You can mention people as well, and you can do spotlight. So if I mention myself, I would have got an email saying someone's mentioned you in a comment, and you get a link basically to come and to click onto the report. So you can respond to that. And here, there's other comments as well. So this is great, but you can start to see that it can easily get out of hand. Let's say you have hundreds or thousands of comments that are going on, and you then need to scroll through this and look at what comments have been made. There's no way to really look at these comments and to filter by personnel. The best bet is you're going to have to scroll down and try to for a comment. There's no searching in here, and there's no way to pull out these comments and review them outside of Power BI service. So there's no way to connect to it wherever it's stored within Power BI service. So we go back to the presentation here, just have a quick review of it. So the current Power BI current commentary features. So if it allows us to leave a comment, we can mention people. It's really handy. It holds filter in relation to the comment. As you've seen, we can go through and see 2007, 2008 based on when the filters are when you made the comment. Unfortunately, it's not data point specific. So you can't make a comment across a certain row within the data. So you can't click on a table. You couldn't click on a row within a table and make a data point specific comment. It's not accessible outside of Power BI service, which can be a pain and a deal breaker for some people. You can't filter your comments by either by the user that's made them or anything that's in your data model. So if you wanted to filter by, for example, the user, which I've said there, or if you wanted to filter by, so for finance example, if you want to filter it by an account, or if you wanted to filter it by an organization, or whatever it is you have in the data model, there's no way for you to get around that. And most importantly, security. There's no row level security, so it doesn't allow you to, if I explain row level security, basically, row level security allows you to filter your data model so you can ensure people can only see what they're meant to see using the data model within Power BI Desktop. As this is in Power BI Service and it's not connected to your data model, people can make comments that people will be able to view everyone's comments. So if you had a hierarchy, let's say you had row level security embedded on your Power BI report and people made comments, it wouldn't fall in line with that row level security. For example, I made this comment here, and if I said, I would never do this in real life, obviously, but if I said I'm going to skew the figure so it look like I'm in a better position, everyone's going to be able to see that, which isn't what you, well, if someone did say that, you'd want to see it, but in real life, people shouldn't be seeing everyone's comments, only the comments they should see. So what if we look at the current Power Platform? So if we look at the Power Platform and look at what options we have available to us within the Power Platform, we have Power BI, which is great at reading data, data modeling, serving data to end users using Power BI service. You can implement row level security. There's a lot of great stuff in there, but it doesn't provide write back features. There's ways to get around things, but not natively. It's not a great tool to use for write back. We have PowerApps, which is application development, which is your low-code, no-code environment using PowerApps, which is a web-based tool that can connect to loads of data sources. So that's a great opportunity that's a great solution to use, great product to use to write back to data sources. We have Power Automate, which is process automation. So you can use that to kick things off on a schedule, use it as a trigger. There's loads of ways to play with that, and you can connect to quite a few different data sources, and you've got Power Virtual Agents, which is intelligent virtual agents. I haven't played with that too much, to be honest, but that's what it does. And what connects to all of these, under all these products, is you have data connectors, AI Builder, and CDS. So common CDS, I think it was recently even renamed to DataFlex Pro, but that's out of the scope for today. So if we start to think about what a high-level architecture would look for a commentary feedback solution, we start to look at Power BI and PowerApps. So if I go to the next slide and start to think about what the solution will look like. So this is a high-level architecture of what the solution looks like and what we'll be building today. So on the left, we have the data sources. So we have the core finance data, which is coming from an Excel spreadsheet at the moment. Of course, that could be a system, that could be SQL, it could be whatever it needs to be. We have a commentary list. So for that, we're going to use a SharePoint list. So SharePoint lists is a data source within the Office environment, and we're going to prepare the data. So the green lines are reading data from. So Power BI Desktop's reading data from Excel and SharePoint lists. We're going to have data preparation just to build it and just to build a data model and make sure it does what it needs to do. We're going to then publish that to service, which is using Power BI Desktop as a data source. And from there, we're using PowerApps and PowerBI.Integration to effectively use the Power BI data source, to use the Power BI data model as a data source for the PowerApp. And from there, we can write the PowerApp data from the Power BI data source back into the commentary list. So effectively, we've got a loop here that allows us to do write back and feedback into the Power BI desktop model. For people that this is a high level architecture, in a real world scenario, it's not going to consistently get the refresher data from Power BI desktop. If it's Excel, you're probably going to have gateways in the middle, or if it's SharePoint, then you might not need a gateway. But that's something we're not going to cover today. But if when you're building that full solution, you have to take those things into consideration as well. Let me just load up the next piece. Okay, so let's go to an example where we're going to walk through Power BI and PowerApps integration. Give me 2 seconds. To Power BI service. Yeah, we're back here. So if I go here, Power BI, PowerApp interactivity. So what we have here in this report, we'll go through the data model shortly. So we've got an account, department, organization, scenario, year, and month. So we've got multiple selections on the months. And here we've got the data model. It's just a simple matrix table. I've got no tricks up my sleeve. I'll go to the workspace instead so I can edit it. So we can edit it. So here we can see this is just a simple table with the keys that are in here. And this is a PowerApp. If I click on here, you can see this is a PowerApp embedded or integration for Power BI. So to prove that our Power BI data model is interacting with the PowerApp, what we can do here is have a selection. If we click on this report, if we click on this row, you don't have to worry about that gray box. It's just when you're in development mode. I'm then selecting one row from this data table. If I select that one row from that data table, that then impacts what's available in the PowerApp. So that way we can use this into lost my words. That way we can use interactivity to basically write our data sources back to the SharePoint list using the keys, and that will feed back into our data model. If I go through an example for commentary. So here's another report. To another page. We have the same filters across the left. We have variance by budget across the top. We have a comments box. This is actually a PowerApp. And then we have comments here. So if I click on if I have a comment and I say this is a comment for May comment, it's also because it's a SharePoint list, you can also have multimedia attachments. So if I wanted to attach a file, if I wanted to attach an image for AS Cube, I click submit. That will then send the comment. That will then create a list, create an item within the list, and handle the attachments. And it will also refresh the data set as well. So if I go back to reading view, if I refresh this, hopefully it's done in time. Here we go. So we got a May comment, who's created by, when it was created, and attachment's true. If I then go to April, because it's data point specific, we see different comments. If I go to July, there's no comments against July. We can then know that our comments are for specific data points, which is exactly what we wanted, because then we can then filter our comments. An added bonus of this is because we're using SharePoint lists, they've got attachments. If I wanted to drill through to attachments, so if someone provided a comment for something and they've given you an attachment, whether that be an Excel spreadsheet, an image, it could be anything. You can then access this using, this is an image viewer. You'll have to think of other ways if you wanted an Excel spreadsheet, but I've just put this in here to prove that this is what's come through from the filters on the previous page. This is the comment that I made. If I click on this as well, it's a hyperlink URL, and then it opens up the image. So now we know, we can create the Power App within the Power BI and also have the write back features with multimedia. So what we're going to do next is we're going to review the model that I've built, that's been built already. So if I go to finance model import, I'm just get out my notes quickly. Yeah. So what we've got here is all the attributes that you've seen already. So we've got the dates, organizations, departments, scenario, and dimmer, and the accounts. Transform data, so you can see where it's pulling from. So all these data sources, they are pulling from, I've used the SharePoint. It's in the accounts, yeah. So I've got an Excel spreadsheet that's basically sitting in SharePoint, and I can connect to it. It's actually in my OneDrive. So all of these are SharePoint. Our OneDrive Excel spreadsheet sitting on OneDrive. And if we go to Power Platform Commentary and Commentary Attachments, what we've got here is the source is a SharePoint list. So this is my SharePoint site, my URL. We connect to the site, and then we can then navigate through to the list. So here I've navigated to the list. Here's the comments that we have. It's got the user, which is fed from the PowerApp, the date keys, and all the keys that are needed to be able to join it onto the relationship in the join the relationships in the data model. Some cleaning up I've done where I've capitalized each words. I've extracted user details. So instead of it being a full-fledged username, user email, I've taken out the name part of it before the @ symbol. Depending on the way your directory is set up, you might want to do that, you might not want to do that. You can also pull in the person's name in the system instead of it being the email address. You've got options basically, and I've cleaned it up and then removed all the unnecessary columns. So now we only have what we need. And then commentary attachments is actually joined. It has the same source, but I've filtered the rows where the attachment's true. Let's refresh this quickly. Yeah, so I filtered where the rows where the attachment's true. And attachments is a column in here somewhere to the right. Here we go. Yeah, so where it's true, rename some columns. I've expanded the attachments so that way I can see each attachment. Created attachment URL. So from there, I give it the website that it's going to go to, and I'm just going to concatenate onto the URL that was given from the actual SharePoint list. So that way you can click on an item and it will load up the item. I've changed the type, so I've changed the ID to a number, renamed and removed the columns we don't need. So basically this is all we need. That way, when we go back into the Power BI data model, we can have a one-to-many relationship. So we can basically have one comment, and from there we can either have no attachments, one attachment, or many attachments. So from there we can filter through to what attachments have been the many attachments that could have been provided to one comment. So let's have a quick review. Let's have a quick look at SharePoint. I can show you what that looks like if you haven't seen it before. So this is a SharePoint website. If you go to the SharePoint landing page, you'll end up here. And from here, you have the sites you have access to. My list is under PowerApps. Easiest way to get to it is go to site content. And then I have a list here. So I'll call it Power Platform Finance Commentary. And then from here, I've got a comment, the org key, account key, department key, date key, scenario key, and the user. So this is basically all the things that we can use to relate it back to the rest of the data model. If you wanted to create a new list, you can go new list, dummy list, create. I can then add columns and define their data types. You've got loads of data types here, and you can do what you need to do effectively, build out what you want. For the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to keep with this Power Platform Commentary list because it's already set up and it saves us some time. And we'll keep with the Power BI data model, and we're gonna focus more on the PowerApp build. So we can focus on building the PowerApp, building the data connectors back to the SharePoint list and data sources, so we can then write data back. So let me create. First thing we're going to do is create a PowerApp. Let me bring this page over. My Chrome tab. So this one. Yeah. So if we go to PowerApps, so it's make.powerapps.com. We're going to go to apps. We're going to create a new app, and we're going to create a Canvas app. So when you click on new app, you get 3 options. Today we're focusing on Canvas apps. So that's basically you can build an app how and and play with the look and feel of the app and decide what it's doing. Model driven's a bit more, it's a bit more out of the box features, and Portal is a public facing Power App, but we're just going to focus on Canvas apps today. So what we're going to choose is, from a blank Canvas app, we're going to choose tablet layout. You can choose phone layout, but it gives you a fixed height and width. So I'm going to go with the tablet layout so I can then choose to play with the height and width as on how I see fit. So while that's loading, yeah, we've built our app. So this is the canvas for your Power App. So if we go through just some of the core elements of Power Apps, the first time looking at it, under your file button, you have your name and icon, screen size, orientation, things I mentioned before. You can change that. You have advanced settings. There's loads of different things you can turn on and turn off. We're not going to go through that today. And then here you have your items you can insert. So if I wanted to insert a new screen, so this is basically screens where you hold objects and you can navigate between screens. You have labels. So if I inserted a label now, I can insert a label now and just say label. Or if I wanted a text input, these are the most common components. So that way I can enter text. You have media, you have galleries, forms. There's 101 different things you can have in here. But for now, we'll clear this all out. And we'll just save this as a blank app. So when we save as, so I will go new Power Platform Finance app. So I remember which one it is. I was a bit confused. It's loads in here. So new Power Platform from Finance app. So now we've got that app. There's nothing in there. We're going to go back. I just want you to spot the difference from when we connect to it the second time around. All we've got at the moment is app. We don't have no Power BI integration. So I'm going to close this down. I'm going to go back to my Power BI data model. This one.
So just slow down a little bit, yeah?
All right, no worries.
Cool.
And the coffee's kicking in. All right, so now we're in the Power BI. We're back at Power BI desktop. So now we know we have an app that's been built. There's nothing that's going on in there, but we know we've got one built. So what we want to do is we want to connect that Power App back to the Power BI desktop. So we're going to use this. So this is giving us our all key, account key, department key, and scenario key. So if we look at the previous one where I show you the interactivity between the two, the reason that it allows it to interact between the two is because we've fed it keys. That way it'll know what to read based on the data model. So what we're going to do now, within that new app, we haven't given it anything. So we're going to feed it some keys so it knows what's being played with within the Power BI data model. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this table and change it to a Power App. So that way I keep the keys that are already in there. So instead of creating a new app, I would choose an app. And there's the new Power Platform app that we created. And I'm going to add it to this. For now, I'm going to click skip and close this. The reason I've done that is because this Power BI data model, even if I did go straight to the Power App, it hasn't yet connected to the Power BI data model that's here. So I need to publish this. Otherwise, the Power App won't know what to read because this doesn't technically exist within Power BI service. It doesn't connect to your local Power BI desktop model. It connects to the one in service. So it's better just to publish it now. Wait for that to go ahead. It shouldn't take long. It's not a big model. It's a good time to take some questions, or if you've got any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask while I'm going ahead with this.
So I've got one quickly. Those fields that you dragged into the Power App visual, those need to be all the fields that you want to capture commentary against? Yes.
So if you want to do any write back or anything you want to capture from the Power BI data model, they have to be in here.
They have to be in the PowerApps data bucket in the visual itself, yeah?
Yes, otherwise it can't call on it. So that if you're just building a Power App within a Power BI data model and you're only pointing to another data source, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you want there to be integration between the Power BI data model and the Power App, and you need to have every column every column in there basically. And it doesn't have to be a column. It does also take measures as well. So you can also add measures in there. So if you've got some complex logic that you want to capture, so let's say you've got variance that is a divide, you can also put measures in there as well. It doesn't have to be a column.
I tried it with measures before. That's nice.
Yeah, it's a great way to capture a more detailed data point and store it, so you know what the status, what it was at the point in time the comment was made. So that's been published. Let's refresh this. Is the workspace? Yeah. So let's go to the template. So this is where we was playing it before. This app should load up. There's nothing in there because we didn't do anything. Edit. And now we're going to edit the Power App within service. So this is the same app we had before, except this time I've taken the edit and I've gone through and edited it from Power BI service instead of going back to the Power App, to the Power App homepage. So what this will do, this will create a connection between Power BI and your Power App. So what's new here is we've got Power BI integration. That wasn't there before, but now we've got it. So if I go through and I just show you an example of what can be done before we go deep dive into it. So this is a table. Because it's a table, we can call it within because it's a table, we can call it within a data table. Makes life easier. So data source for the items for this, I'm going to go Power BI integration, which is what we have there, data, and that's all I need to do. And if I want to edit the fields, so this is editing the fields that come up as columns within this table, I can then select this. So this would reflect what's already been selected here. So we've got April, corporate, Northwest division, and then this will be the keys that are there. So then now we know we can write back keys based on what's selected back to the SharePoint list, which would then loop back into the Power BI data model, which is what we're after. So let's play with this Power App just to make sure. Let's play with this Power App so it fits within what we have. So if I click on this visual here, what we can do to make life easier is click on General, get the width and height of this box. So we've got 497, 359. If I go to this settings, I can then change the orientation, screen size. I've already forgotten those numbers. What were they? 497, 359. 497 and 359. There's loads of settings here that I'm not going to play with, but if you get a chance to play with them, I would give it a go. Yeah, that's just a warning saying if you built something that is spread out in your app page, it's basically going to mush it all together to fit in, but that's not a concern for us because we haven't actually built anything. So now we've got the right size we want. And the first thing we're going to do is connect all the data sources we need. So we can go to View Data Sources. In this app, we don't have any minus the Power BI integration, which doesn't show up on here. But once you choose different data sources, they still show up. So we'll go to SharePoint. So we're going to connect to that same list. That list was in the Power App site. It is called the Power Platform Commentary list. Okay. So that's done. So we have our Power BI data model connected. We have our SharePoint list connected. We're also going to want a Power BI connector. So this is this. This is going to allow us to do the refresh. This is another way of doing it. You can use Power Automate to kick off the refresh, or you can use this Power BI connector, which is whichever your flavor is, you can decide to choose. So what we're going to do from now is just save it. Cool. And then because we're working with a SharePoint list and we're working with multimedia, we have to use forms. When you're using forms, you basically it provides all the columns that you're going to need. So I've clicked Form and I've clicked Edit. And the data source here is going to be the SharePoint list. And what it's going to do is going to auto-populate all the fields that come up within that SharePoint list. So what we had before was title, all the keys we need, and the ability to provide attachments. Just to clean it up, I'm going to make the columns 1. So we have 1 column in the gallery, so they can scroll down. Title, by default, whenever you create a SharePoint list, the first column is called title. Within here, the end users don't need to know the difference. We'll just put comment. So we've got comment here. One other thing we need to change is when we selected this form, there was edit mode. There's actually another mode called new. So edit mode lets you edit, display lets you view. There's actually a mode called view. It'd be handy if they included it in the display mode. So if we go to default mode, we'll go with new. That way you can create new comments. If you go to edit and you forget to do that, because you haven't selected that item, it will be blank within your Power BI report. I've done that a couple of times. It took a while for me to figure out. That will help you out with that. So all key, so what we need to do now is, because we're pointing at the data source, all these are all locked. By default, whenever you create a new form, it doesn't want you to change the properties, because it can go really wrong depending on what you're updating, where your fields are writing to, where you're reading from. But because we know what we're doing with this, I'm going to walk you through it. It's fine to unlock to change the properties. So we unlock to change the properties on all these items. So you want to be clicking in the background. If you click on that, it won't. I guess that'll work as well, but it's best practice just to click on the actual row that represents the whole data card. So user, and that's all we need to unlock. You don't need to unlock attachments. We're not going to be changing anything there. So with comment, the default, we've got parent default. That's equivalent of blank because we don't have a parent, which is fine. But all key. So this is the defaults we're going to want to change. So what we're going to want to do is for the Power App to take into consideration what's been selected. So because we can't feed a table into here, we have to use some of the XLX formulas that allow you to do, that allow you to make, that allow you to basically bring in what you want. So I'm going to go first, which is bring back the first record. And I'm going to go PowerBI.Integration. So from the PowerBI.Integration, from that data set, I want to bring back for this one, it's going to be organization key. And then what the record we want to bring back from that table, the first one's going to be the organization key. So what that's bringing back is the organization key from what's selected from the first one. Because we've got single select on, it would always be the right one effectively. And then we just need to go through and do that again on these account keys. What I'm also going to do is change this default mode to display mode to disabled, so that way they can see it but they can't change it. When you're building natural Power App, this is more for the learning. I'll do it for the learning for you guys, so you know that it's still there. But what you can also do is you can hide each one, so even though they can't see it, it's still being written back in the form. So this account key, we're going to change organization key to account key. No, that didn't work, did it? Key and an account key. Bear with me, guys. I have to build this out. Department key. Won't take too long. Date key, which is year, month in the data model. Scenario key. Has anyone got any questions while I'm building this out?
There was a question on whether they're in sync or not, the Power Apps and the Power BI. So you've used Power BI integration to get data from Power BI. So would that, for example, be in sync, or would you have to kind of refresh it from Power Apps to get the data into Power BI?
To get data into Power BI, I don't.
Also, I guess when you're refreshing, you're syncing your data back from Power Apps into Power BI, right? So once you've created a form, you're going into SharePoint and then putting the data into there. So I guess that's the first question. I guess Shane was I don't know which exactly you were referring to, but I guess that's for Power Apps to Power BI. It goes via SharePoint, right? So you write the data from the form, goes into SharePoint, and then Sam's going to be able to synchronize to refresh the Power BI data set, which has SharePoint as a data source, and that will bring that commentary data in. I suppose maybe the other part of that question might not be Shane's question, but what about when you use Power BI.Integration? So say your Power BI data set changes, at what point will that bring that data into Power Apps using Power BI.Integration? Is it reading it live from the service, or?
All right, I'll tackle the first one. So the first one, so the difference between Power Apps and Power BI. Power App doesn't use, it's not, think of it as not an input mode. There's ways to bring data into your Power App into the user session, but it's always going to have a live connection to your data source, so it can read and write. If you're using import in Power BI Desktop, then they can end up out of sync. So if you're reading data from a Power App and that data hasn't then been read into the Power BI data model, your Power App can show more recent records than your Power BI your Power BI report, which in some cases isn't the end of the world, but it could be a deal breaker. And if that's the case, then you're going to need to or either make your Power BI data source direct query, or go for premium and then hope that you can refresh it really quick every time a new record comes up. But even that might not work as a solution. What was the second question again, Rishi? That if you make updates to the data set, will it break PowerApps?
Well, just that PowerBI.Integration, I guess. How up to date is that? So your Power BI data set changes. Would that be picked up by Power BI.Integration? Say if you get a new field or something like that, I guess, or.
Yeah, so as soon as you add something in and you go to edit the Power App, it will pop up straight away. But if you're then using something and you take it away, so you take it out of that box.
Yeah.
If you take out of the box that's here, any formulas that refer to this won't work.
Yes.
So anywhere that you're using that within a Power App, you'll get an X marker saying this isn't working. So you won't be able to do what you wanted to do with it effectively.
Yeah, cool. So did I answer your question, Shane, as well? So there's two questions in there, one of mine, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. Thanks for that.
No worries. Let's make these disabled as well.
Disabled just means hidden, right? In this case.
No, so disabled is it's there, but they can't edit it.
Yeah, so non-editable.
Yeah.
Non-editable. Yeah. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Display mode. Doesn't like something. What's that? I have to fix something right now. Oh yeah, I did it in the fill, which is fine. Display mode disabled. Go through it. Display mode, not parent. We want disabled. Date key. Mode. Disabled. Disabled user disabled. Attachments will leave enabled. So at the moment, what we've got so far, we've got the form, which is great, but we haven't submitted it yet. So let's minimize this a bit. This is a scrollable gallery, so scrollable form. So they can go through here and scroll through and do what they need to do. The next thing we're going to do is insert a button. So this button on the select action of this button, I'd say submit, just to create the text that's just clearer for it to do. The way I did that is I double clicked on it and you can amend it. So on the select property of this button, the first thing I want to do is submit the form. So I'm going to submit form 1 and give this semicolon. Semicolon basically allows you to do more than one formula at a time, and it does it in order the semicolons are. So you've got to be careful what order you do things at. So if I did a refresh, so if I wanted to refresh that form, no, I don't want to refresh the data set. Refresh form. No, because I did refresh. Reset. I'm getting confused with Power BI. Yeah, so if I did this the wrong way around, if I did a reset before I submit the form, I'd basically be writing blanks back. So you've got to be conscious of what the order you're doing things in. And then from here, I want to call in the Power BI refresh dataset function, which was part of that Power BI connector that I had. So here it's going to ask me for a group ID and a dataset ID. So if we go back to our model, which is here, to get the group ID, I'm going to click on the dataset. You won't see it within. Is that the same one? If I click here, save. Yep. So now I get the dataset ID before you'll see in the report ID. So this is our group ID, which is the same as a data set. It's different terminologies, depending on who you ask. It's this one. Now that's our group ID. And I'm going to go here, and this is our data set ID that we want to refresh. mark. That's speech marks, and we're good to go. So what we expect to happen now is if they add the new comment, it's going to take into consideration everything that's been selected in the Power BI data model. So we have a data point comment, and we can also add attachments. So I'm going to go new comment from new app. Scroll down, and I'm going to attach a file. Let's go with info button and then go submit. So what I should do is submit it and then reset the form, which is what it's done. The only things that can resubmit refreshes the comment because all of this is already in there. So if we go back to our SharePoint list now and refresh this, please work. There we go. So new comment for new app. We come into here and then we've got the info button. So if I go back to PowerApps now, let me not select stop presenting. So what we need to do now is save it, publish it. So if you save it, it's just saved within that PowerApp session, in that edit session. Until you publish it, it won't then become visible to everyone else, whoever's got access to that PowerApp. If I go, if you give me 2 seconds, can you guys hear that in the background? I'm just going to close the door. Sorry, I got 5 minutes. So if I go back to Power BI now, and I go back to the report, we've got everything we want here. I'm just going to edit this because these things annoy me. That way we've got things the right size. I'm just going to have to deal with it this time. So from here we've got Power BI data model based on what's selected. So let's change this all key. So if I change that organization to Northeast, you can see that 4 changed to 6. I go, what's this? Southeast comment. And I click submit, attach. Let's go with Power BI service. Submit, that should reset the form. Title's gone, the comment was gone from before, attachment file's gone. If I go into here and I add in some comment, I add in the comments from the SharePoint list. You're gonna let me select you? Oh, that's not playing nice. And we have Power Platform commentary. There we go. So what I'm gonna do in here is add the comments. We're gonna add, we don't need to add the account key. We already know what it's filtered to. What we're gonna do is add the comment, when it was created, who it was created by, so it's come through, so it's done that refresh, who it was created by and the ID, and then this will let us drill through to the attachments page, which is already built here. So now we're just drilling through into it. So now we've got Power BI service. Using this, the Power BI service image popped up. So there we built it in 45 minutes, or just under 45 minutes, and brought it back in. So then that way we can prove we've got a consistent loop coming through. Let's go to the PowerPoint and review what the issues we're facing with the Power BI service commentary features to see what we have and haven't done and what we've addressed.
Just before you do that, Sam, there was a question on the file picker. So Mark's asking on the attachment file picker, look to all files. And when he's tried that, it defaults to image files. So did you have to do something special to get it to show all files rather than just images?
The file picker what do you mean by
this? When you attach a file. So I think it might be different between...
Yeah, that's the difference. So what I think what he's referring to is this: when you insert, I think you can do you can allow people to insert things. It's not that one. Yeah, where is it? I can't remember where it is. Put me under pressure. Import. I've seen it before. I just haven't had to use it. Add picture.
Yeah, and then when you click on that, does it only allow you to select images? So there it says image files only.
Yeah.
But did you have it before where it had all files? Where you could
no, so I didn't use the image picker. So what I'm doing here is I'm allowing attachments from, so this is SharePoint attachments, this is separate, this is attach a file because this is attachments on a SharePoint list, you can attach whatever a SharePoint list allows you to do, which is a Word document, Excel document. If you've gone down this route, then you've hard coded it to basically use the feature that basically says only allow pictures.
Right. So there's no attach a file, any file from PowerApps.
There is a way to do it. Let me just try to find out where did I go before. I've already forgotten.
Cool. But hopefully that answers your question, Mark, in terms of how that works.
So you've got import data, which allows you to do any file.
Any file. Okay. Cool.
So if I go to my documents, then I've got anything. Let me just go with. Have I got stuff in here? That's only allowing me to do that. So if I go to all files, yeah, I've got everything here. Yeah, actually no.
I think when I just pointed it, it's the settings in SharePoint where you've got it to attach any file, whereas you just got images. So yeah, I think it's answered that question in the chat.
Yeah, I think use the attachment field in SharePoint. I think you could attach images this way, but I haven't seen a way where you can attach any file in PowerApps actually. But it might be possible.
No. So anyway, so it's the attachment field in SharePoint. You can
attach anything. Yeah.
Limit it, or you can have it to do everything. So yeah. So that's why.
Yep.
Cool.
Makes sense.
What was you doing? I was going back to PowerPoint to see what we have and haven't done. So from the compared to the commentary feature, what we've done is leave a comment. We've been able to do that. We can mention people. If we wanted to go down the route of using Power Automate to send emails or to do anything and reach out to people, we can do that. Haven't done it in this because we don't have the right amount of time. We hold filters in relation to the comment. So we can just use the filters within our data model to do that. We've added in data point specific, which is great. It's accessible at Power BI service. So if you wanted to have your hands on those comments elsewhere, you just need to have access to the list. We're filtering out comments. So if we wanted to add that table in a filter, and let's say we had someone specific, we can then use that table to basically filter out the comments as well. And we haven't created role level security. It's not part of the session, but because we've now got everything in a Power BI data model, we can then implement role level security to ensure people should only see the comments they should be able to see based on whether that be their managerial hierarchy or wherever they're based. All the great things that come with role level security. So as we built this, I've kind of taken us down the road where I've taken all the considerations. I've taken everything into consideration. So it's just some other considerations you're going to need to take into account when you're building a commentary app. And this is realistically applicable to all apps, not necessarily just commentary apps. So if we talk about licensing, so for PowerApps, you need a license. So for this use case, PowerApps for Office license would have been sufficient because we're not connecting to any premium connectors. So if we connect to a premium connector, let me show you what a premium connector looks like. So if we go to view data sources, so all these connectors that have these emblems next to them, same one we got from Power BI, they're premium connectors. So what that means is you'll need a PowerApp plan for user or PowerApp per user per app plan. But if you're not connecting to those premium connectors, then your PowerApps Office will be sufficient. From the Power BI side, you would either need a Power BI, every user that's reading it will need to be a Power BI Pro, have a Power BI Pro license, or it'll need to be hosted in a Power BI Premium capacity. In terms of securities, report users will need access to the Power BI app, which is the box standard when using Power BI. PowerApp will need to be shared with commentators to open the app. I can show you how to do that quickly. So if we go here, after I published it, I've got to save it again. I can then publish this version. So it's just to ensure everything's in sync. So the latest published version, I can then choose who to share this with. If I type in their name, then they'll come up. Commentators will also need access, at least contribute permissions to the SharePoint list. So to be able to update, create or delete items. That's another thing, another side of the PowerApp development. We've gone straight into creating new items. But learning how to use PowerApps, how to do updates, deletes, and all that sort of stuff, you'll need to probably better to have different screens where they can navigate, have a landing page. Do you want to look at your comments? Do you want to update your comments? All that sort of stuff. So then commenters will be able to, another thing to consider is commentators will be able to have access to the list outside of PowerApps. which isn't the end of the world, and there's settings within SharePoint where you can say people can only edit their own comments. So if I go to the advanced settings within here, so I can say here I level permission, so they can read all items, or they can only read items created by them, or they can create and edit items, or they can create items and edit items that were created by the user. So you can decide what they can and can't do if you only wanted to read their own items or create and edit items based on if they create it or not. I think I got tongue twisted there.
So the question on that around allowing users to edit their comments and capturing only the latest comments. So I guess if they edit it directly in SharePoint,
it would automatically update it.
It will automatically update it, so you'll just see the latest comment. And I guess there is also version history as well on that, right? So if you wanted to be able to see the history of comments against a particular item, that's possible with SharePoint.
Yeah, you can even build that into the PowerApp. You can read the SharePoint list to see if they've got a comment already, and then say that one's inactive when you deactivate it. You can go down that rabbit hole within PowerApp as well if you wanted to, but you can use version history as well. But yeah. So in terms of data source, so if you're looking at building something that has real-time requirements, or you have large amounts of data, by large amounts, I played with SharePoint lists, load 100k records into it, and I don't want to use the word fine. It was about a 5-6 second response time to bring records back. So if you're going, I'd say if you're going over 50-60k, start to consider SQL Server. But if you've already built something, kind of keep on going. You can keep on going down that road until it starts to slow down. If you've got performance problems, then you're going to need to consider a more robust data source system. And security as well, because with SharePoint in terms of security, you don't have the ability to have, well, I guess you do, it's not the same level of security that's available in SQL Server. In terms of delegation, there's delegation restrictions when you're working with SharePoint. I won't go too deep on delegation, but it's basically the ability for PowerApps to give to pass completely tongue twisted, to pass the processing of the request back to PowerApps. So let's say you have 2,000 records and you're reading data. We've only done writing data, and your limit's 500 out of the box. You might not get all the records you expect back. That could be a whole nother topic. And you also should consider the refresh schedule when you're building something like this. So the solution that I provided was refreshing the data set every time a comment was made. If you have Power BI Pro, you're going to hit that 8 limit refresh pretty quick if people are making comments every other minute or whatever it is that you're going to have set up. So I would personally take that out of the Power App. It was just more to show you can do it, and then consider strictly using the refresh schedule, so that way you can span out your 8 refreshes, and you can include the last refresh time within the Power BI report, so everyone knows these are the comments as of when this, that. But but in some cases, people should be providing comments beforehand, not on the day that the deadline is. But it depends on what your use case is.
Yeah, or you can use, if you use SQL Server, you can use direct query as well, right? So
even better, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I just put a link into the chat from Jessie's session from 2 weeks ago. If you guys want to do that, because she's covered some similar points here as well about around refreshing. And she used Power Automate to refresh rather than PowerApps. So yeah, I guess you could use either.
That'll probably be a better option in terms of monitoring, so you can see how often your flows are failing and things like that. But yeah, and then that's it, guys. Gone through everything. Has anyone got any questions? Do they feel like they've learned anything? Got ideas that they ideas where they can use this, implement it? Feel free to unmute yourself and talk.
So hi, it's Thomas on the side.
Hi there.
I've started using basically this integration and using the PowerApps embedded within Power BI for the commentary for the monthly P&L, financial P&L at our organization. And I came to some limitations. Basically, I couldn't work out the integration within PowerApps. So obviously, a good lesson for me to see, how the integration should be done correctly. I just couldn't basically point out Power BI to be the source of the data. So thanks for that. Really good.
Great.
session
Happy I
today.
could help.
Cool. Thank you.
No worries.
And the delegation restrictions, you talk about you can use collections in PowerApps.
Yeah, I can. If you're happy to, I can go through that quickly and demo it really quick if you want. If you've got time.
Yeah, sure. We've got a couple of minutes. If anyone has any questions, so feel free to ask, and we can make sure we cover your questions.
Cool. Let me get the right. So we've got PowerApps. Where am I going? I am going to PowerApps training. Let me edit this. Oh, I'm gonna have to. Okay. Give me 2 secs. I just need to. It's not gonna have enough time to spin something up, but I'll show you something. So what this effectively is, I'll just load this while that's loading up. Is what I'm going to show you is the 100K challenge. So what you can see here is a delegation 100K challenge. So what we have is these data sources, so the SharePoint list and the data table sitting in a database, and one is sitting in Synapse/data warehouse. So what we're going to try to do is see what responses we get back in terms of reading data. This is working now. So let me change this. Refresh. Jesse's got a great video on this as well, where you can load all your data locally. So what I'm going to do is, what we can see from here is ignore Synapse for now because that's paused, but the SQL DB is running. So what we have here is from the SharePoint list, we have 100K rows, so we know what to expect. I'm going to show you the SharePoint list quickly. I think I've got to open in another one. So if I go back to PowerApps and I go to site contents and I go to 100K rows. So here we have 100,000 rows where we have the date created in numbers, which we don't have to worry about for now, the row count. So we basically know if we sum these up, we should get 100,000 records. Row ID, which is a distinct count, so we should get 100,000 again. So I'm going to go back to my PowerApp. Got too much Chrome tabs open. So what we've got here is, so if we've got a sum of the line total, which is, well, just the sum of the ones, we've only got 2,000. So when you're not delegating, what happens is you get this delegation warning saying what operation is not delegable. So here we're saying we're not picking up all the records. So we've got an orange one here, which is basically what I'm basically saying that's a right answer, but it's only because it's the min row ID and it's at the top. So it would have locally processed 500 records. By chance, the min's correct because it was in the first 500 records it processed. In this case, it's 2,000 because you can change it up to 2,000, and I can show you that here. So in settings, advanced settings, you can change the delegation for non-delegable queries. So if I change that back to 500, I have to click and apply, maybe not. If I go back to this, the refresh won't work right now, but the next time it reads, it will go back to 500. And we've got Azure SQL DB. So Azure SQL DB has more more operations, more functions that are supported by delegation. So the sum works with Azure DB. So we're bringing back the whole 100,000. The count rows and distinct count are not working, but they're non-delegable, so it's not bringing back the right number, but min and max is delegable, so we're bringing back the right records. So it's able to pass the processing back to the data source, read all the records, and then bring back the answer. Unlike the SharePoint list, where it's saying, I know I can't delegate, so I'm going to take the first 2,000 records and then give you what I have from that. So with another option is loading your PowerApps collection, which is basically a local collection within the user of the user's PowerApp session. So if I click this refresh, please start working. Then that DB. Yeah, that's why, because it's still looking at DB. So what this is going to do is read each record and load it into the local PowerApps collection. So what we can see here is we're starting to load records. So what we're doing here is loading all the records into the PowerApp collection. So this will keep on going until it reaches 100,000. So that way you'll have all the functions you want and everything you need in terms of not having to worry about delegation. But when you start to think about building a PowerApp, you're not going to want to load 100,000 records into a user session because then your PowerApp can slow down. What you're really going to want to think about is having a user story where you're taking them down like a filter selection where you can start to focus on what's actually required. And by the time you get back to the data source, you know what you're reading and writing to. But most of the time, you're probably going to use Power BI to read data and not use PowerApps. This has stopped, and I can't figure out why, but effectively that's what you can do. Yeah.
I didn't realize you were actually running that live. I saw PowerPoint started. I didn't realize you were actually going to run that in real time.
Yeah. You kind of put me on the spot. The data warehouse was set up, but the DB's not. But it's fine. Anyway, we've loaded 25,000 records, so we don't have to worry about it. We know it works. But yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks, Sam. That was great.
No worries.
Any final questions for Sam? Otherwise, feel free to reach out to him on Twitter or LinkedIn. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Well, yeah. Please make sure you fill in the feedback form and register for the next event in 2 weeks' time. But both the links in the chat there. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of the week. So 36 degrees tomorrow if you're in London or UK. So enjoy. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you soon.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Everyone.
Take care.
Thanks.
That's great. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.